So, another straw poll, because we do like a little bit of interaction with you guys. Keeps you on your toes. Why aren't people buying houses anymore? So, there's three options here, because these are always the three options that come up. Too expensive, job mobility, and can't get the deposit. So, who thinks it's because property's too expensive? Job mobility. Can't get a deposit. Good, right, okay. 95% mortgages were withdrawn at the credit crunch in Q1 2009. How do I know that? Because I used to be a bank manager. I used to work for Halifax. In fact, my claim to fame is I was on the Halifax TV advert with Howard. And you can Google me and you can have a look. Oh yes, 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 yes. So, what we're going to do is, when did 95% mortgages come back? So, we'll start at the top, 2016, 2015, 14, 13, 12, 11, it's not going to be anything else, is it? It was actually Q3 2009. They only went away for about 5 or 6 months. Surprising, I thought, but true. So, yesterday I went on to Money Supermarket and I said, I'm a first-time buyer, okay? What mortgage rates have you got for me? And Barclays have got this stupidly expensive mortgage rate at 2.55% fixed for 3 years. And the Melton Mowbray Building Society got a 3-year discount at 2.79, and the Loughborough Building Society a 5-year fixed at 3.94. Who here had a mortgage in 1992? What mortgage rate were you paying, madam?
Was that when it was 15%?
15%. 15%. So look at that exorbitant 2.55. Okay, you see, let's actually look at this with real properties and work it out in real life. Here is a 1-bedroom flat on Hogarth Court with an extended lease, because I know there's a bit of dodgy ones around there, so you've got to extend the lease, for the princely sum £135,000, right? If I bought that with a Barclays mortgage, I would have to save £6,500. Not £30,000, not £50,000, £6,500. You're going to say, well, can you get a mortgage? If you paid your bills on time and you haven't got any county court judgments, yes, you'll get a mortgage. They're not that hard to get as long as you've done right. But if you're weeing it up the wall and you've got county court judgments, well, you never should have had a mortgage in the first place. I'm sorry, but that is just life. £6,500, and it rents, and you can buy it for £557 a month. Sorry, not rent, the mortgage. And if you got it on a 35-year mortgage, 461. This is capital and interest, not interest only. And to rent it, £650 a month. Buy it for £461 a month with £6,500 deposit, or rent it for £650 a month. It is cheaper to buy than it is to rent. But you're going to say, well, you've got to save the deposit. Well, who here borrowed some money off their parents when they bought their first house? Bank of mum and dad. Who here went without? Because I tell you here and now, if you buy yourself a mobile phone, upgrade every year, well, it's 80, 90 quid a month. But then, hold on a second, we've got the Sky package to have, haven't we? That's 90 quid a month. And then we've got to go out 3 times a week, because we do like the bar, don't we, Chris? And then we've also got to go out to the bar, to the restaurant as well. And then I also like my holiday, 2 holidays a year, so I can't afford it. Well, I'm sorry. Again, I'm going to speak my mind here. I went without, and my wife went without, for the 1 or 2 years that you saved at the deposit. And if you come back, £6,500 deposit today, if you go back 25 years, is about £3,700 in real money when you account for inflation. You've got to save for it. Tenants want all the extras, the phones, the mobile phones are not going without. That's not their fault, that's society's fault, if it is a fault. But the bottom line is, it is cheaper, sorry telly, nice telly, so I get very passionate about this. It is cheaper to buy than it is to rent. So why the hell aren't people buying? Well, 6 reasons. And these are the 6 reasons why buy-to-let will continue to grow, or more importantly, the demand for rental will grow. Okay, here we go. Back in the dark area is privately rented, and if you look on the far edge here, that's 1918, 75% of houses were privately rented and 25% were owner-occupied, and there was no council housing. We now go back to the end of the First World War, and 30% of houses were owner-occupied, 15% of houses were council houses, and the rest were privately rented. This is proportion. And then as we went through the 60s and 70s, owner-occupation grew, as did council houses, because councils were building a lot of houses at this point, and the thing that got squeezed was privately rented. But watch this. People think this privately rented revolution came about from 2007 because of the credit crunch. No, it didn't. It started to grow in 1991. Look. We've never been a nation of homeowners. Not full time. Look, back in the 1950s, only 40% of houses owned their own home. We're only going back to where we were now. Nationally, we are now at about, where are we nationally? About 18-19% privately rented, nationally, okay? And Savills, great firm, said, but by 2025, 25% of houses would be privately rented, and everyone scoffed at them and said there'll be riots on the streets. Well, look at it. We were 30% of privately rented houses back in 1962-63. We've already been here before. We're just reverting back. What happened was in the 60s and 70s we had. Can you remember that? Some of you here can remember hyperinflation when it was 20-30% inflation. What was happening was you were buying a detached house for £4,000 or £5,000, and then because inflation was at 20 or 30%, you were borrowing the money, but in real terms, because inflation was eating away at it, your mortgage was worthless, but your wages kept up because wages did keep up with inflation. So all of a sudden, you had this lovely house with sod or mortgage, that's a technical term, and then you think, well, let's go and borrow some more. And then you borrowed some more money, and then all of a sudden you had more hyperinflation, so your mortgage in real terms went zoomp, and you borrowed some more. And then we have the daughter of Grantham to blame.